It's the middle of winter and we're smoking crack off a candle. And I think everything's okay. And my eyes lit up like this, and I thought to myself, I'm going to be a fried egg. Did the best thing that I could do. I stole a car and came to Florida. D119354 is my DOC number. The D stands for dumbass. All I want is blonde hair, blue eyes, and big tits.
Welcome to The Recovery Idiot. Please like and subscribe and visit therecoveryidiot.com. The only place to buy a shirt and some Keefe. Please follow us on all the social medias. The following contains explicit language and situations that some might find unsettling. Viewer discretion is advised.
If you have ever been broke or had to smoke crack with a candle, if you have stolen a car or ever done time in the panhandle, and there's a place for you at the beach, but you won't need a sandal, doing whatever it takes and following rules most people can't handle. Now you can run till you end up at the beach house with Blake. Run up at the beach house. You can run till you end up at the beach house with Blake. Run till you end up at the beach house with Blake. Now you can run till you end up at the beach house with Blake. Run up at the beach house. Now you can run till you end up at the beach house with Blake. Run till you end up at the beach house with Blake.
And the guy said to me, as soon as I looked over there and seen that AA necklace, I said, oh, here we go, another shit show. And he goes, I want to say thank you, bro. Coming from a nah guy, that's a big thing. They say thank you after they see this. Then I said, well, you see that and that and that? I said, I'm a member of the A-team, baby.
Well, there's that joke. People go to NA meetings. I got 2 years sober, and the NA people say, how'd you do it? And they go, AA.
I always tell everybody, I says, my heart's in CA, my recovery's in AA, and I even go to NA every once in a while to see how I don't want to be. Now I'm nervous as a whore in church.
Been doing this for how many years? 20 what?
Tomorrow makes 26.
Tomorrow
makes 26. Yeah.
See?
If I make it till tomorrow, it'll be 26 consecutive.
You see how
No
God lets
lapse in
things
between.
work?
Yeah.
The day before 26, you come over.
The day before.
Well,
Should have waited till tomorrow.
My name is Leroy. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I first heard about Blake's house when I was locked up in Rock Road in Fort Pierce. I'd never heard of a halfway house. Never really knew about the sobriety community. I never knew there was this
Other way of life.
Yes, but I didn't know there was places for people like us. In New Jersey, a halfway house is something you go to when you get out of prison. Yeah. And that's all I knew about it. And there was this kid who was a rapper. He went by the rapping name Razor.
Oh, yeah.
This kid was telling me...
Jonte.
He was telling me that he just got kicked out of this place called Blake's house and then got a charge for stealing a car. I said, what is that? Because people kept talking about Blake's house. And they're like, well, it's a halfway house. It's the halfway house you don't want to go to. And I learned that the hard way. I got out. I went to a different halfway house and I was asked to leave nicely. And I didn't really have any other option. And Blake's house is one of those things that a lot of people end up there because they don't have a lot of other options. And it ends up being exactly where they need to be. It's like me, just like James, just like Tony. There's a lot of people sober today in my life, and it's because of Blake's house. And everybody knows about Blake. Puff Daddy might like freak-offs. He still put out good music. Bill Cosby might have done questionable things, but he still had a hit TV show. Well, Blake might be an asshole, but that does not take away from all the good things he's done for the recovery community.
And I like freak-offs.
Who doesn't? How did it all get started?
My name is Blake, and I'm an alcoholic. Start from the beginning?
Yeah, what was life like?
Obviously, life sucked. because I ended up here. But it didn't always suck. Well, you know what? It probably, I grew up in the Midwest. I was born in Toledo, raised up Toledo, Detroit. Caught my first sales charge in Cobo Hall at Ted Nugent concert in Detroit, Michigan when I was 17. So that was where my life was, right, in between. I don't want to get too much into the trauma, that what happens to us when we're kids. I think I learned that was a crutch for a long time. I used that as an excuse to continue my using. I had to understand that why I continued to use was my fault, nobody else's. I had to get through that. I had to break that chain, as they say. I had to understand that the problem wasn't even in the substance and the drinking, and it was in my thinking. That I had to understand that until I got down to root causes and conditions of my using, I could never get well. I could blame it on the mom. I could blame it on the stepdad that used to beat me and lock me in the basement, dad that left when I was very young. As I got older, police, the probation, the parole, the shit eaters. I could blame it on anything. The fact is that nobody ever stuck a crack pipe in my mouth and made me smoke it. I made that decision every time knowing that the outcome was not going to be very good. It took me a lot of years to do that, and I started out, I'm sure I drank at some point when I was very young, come from a Jewish background. I was baptized in prison, so my perception of religion is pretty fucked up. But, I believe today that there is a power greater than me, because if there wasn't, I wouldn't be here today. I started drinking that I know of. When my dad, like I said, my dad used to pick us up. My sister, I have a younger sister that even to this day, we don't conversate much. She's a lot like my mom was, in my opinion, very spiteful and holds things for a long, long period of time. But I made my amends with her. Making amends is to keep my side of the street clean. If they accept it, they accept it. If not, I have to move on from it. That was one of the ones I did, and that was a few years back. She lives out in Portland, Oregon. My dad was this auto mechanic, had fast cars, loved to hang out in bars, drank past Blue Ribbon beer, and he was my idol. My mom, he left when I was about, 3 years old, but he was in and out of our lives. My mom was a barmaid. They used to call them barmaid back then. They didn't call them bartenders. She was a barmaid because she was female. So when my dad left, I'd have a new daddy. Every 3 days, I'd have a new daddy in the house. From a very young age, I had this persona about myself that I had to be tough for my sister. It was my house. I had to be the protector, because the drama and the chaos that would always come. My mom never drank, but she did every... I've seen her drunk a couple of times, but when she drank, she got violently sick, and I used to laugh at her when I was 10 or 11. It's
lightweight.
But she did everything else. But she worked, and she was able to do things that I couldn't do when I was using. So that's when they tell you that being an alcoholic addict, which I believe is all the same, that you have to be self-diagnosed with it. You have to admit to it. And she never ended up in jail. She never ended up homeless. She always had a job. So who's to say that she was functional or not functional addict? I don't know. God bless her. She's dead now. Dad used to pick us up here and there, me and my sister, and we'd always have these great plans. And he would take me to the bar, and he would stick me on a milk crate and let me shoot pool, or else he would sit me up in the bar stool and he'd let me pull the ribbon off the past Blue Ribbon bar, which I thought was the coolest thing in the world to do that. And I could never get it. And I'm sure I had a couple sips, but I can't remember ever getting intoxicated or anything like that. But I remember I was about 8 years old, and I was hanging out. My mom was already married to like second or third husband. And he was this big frickin' Polak named Leo Bloom. Leo the Beal, they used to call him in the neighborhood. And he had just got out of prison. This guy was big. And I'm 8 years old. I'm a little shithead. And I'm hanging out with the older guys in the neighborhood. We're down in the corner. And we're just hanging out, telling lies, even at that age. And somebody pulls out a bottle of Mad Dog. And I knew what it was, but I really didn't know what it was. And they had a styrofoam cup, and they poured it in. And the cup went around. I took a sip, and I remember taking that first sip of that Mad Dog, and all of a sudden it felt like this magic potion went through every vein in my body, and my chest got bigger, my arms got bigger, my head got bigger. I could talk louder. I don't know how that's possible. And I could talk louder, and I just felt this amazed. I felt like I was Superman. I could leap small buildings in a single bound. I remember the cup came back around, and I did another swig, and I started to get a little feel good, and I started talking to the guys. I'm gonna go home, and this fucking guy that's living in my house, I'm gonna whoop his ass. I mean, this guy's like 5 times as big as me. I'm a little shit, but I'm talking good, and we got done. Everybody's boosting me up. Yeah, go, and I did exactly what any 8-year-old would do. I went home, and I hid under the covers, and I hope he would never catch me. And that was the start of my using career. The feeling, I didn't drink the next day. I was 8. Next week, maybe next month. I don't know when it was. It might have been 3 months from now. I'm not sure when it was, but I do know the next time I drank for effect. I never used to be social. Tell me a social crackhead. Shoots Placidils up in their arm. That shit kills you. Nobody does that sociably. We didn't have the great fentanyl and crystal meth, thank God, when I was out using, but there was enough that would kill you out there anyways, and heroin and things of that nature. And it didn't matter what I did, is the fact that I did it, and I would do more of it. This just gives you an example of what kind of dumbass I was. Me and this guy, and I don't remember a lot of people's last names, but I remember this guy, Mike Miller. And we used to hang out. We were like 16, 17 years old. And we were at this guy who was a veteran, disabled vet or whatever he was. And he was pretty wacko. So we were all over there getting drunk. And of course, when you get drunk and you're in people's house, you look in their medicine cabinets to see what they got in there that's good, that's going to go with alcohol. And if it says on the bottle, do not drink with alcohol, may cause drowsiness, that means drink a bunch of alcohol and do a bunch of pills. I mean, that's how we always did it. We stole the bottle. One of us stole the bottle, and we left, and we found this shit that we were going to get really fucked up on. And they were Stelazine 5 milligrams. So we equated that with a Valium 5 milligram, which was real big back in those days. And God, I could do 20 of Roach 5s and just to catch a buzz. So he was bigger than I am. So he got there was a odd number. So he got 19 and I got 18. And we just didn't do 3 of them. We did all of them. I started to feel funny that night. I said, listen, I'm going home. At this point, I was living with my granny. So it must have been I was about 15, I think, because I had already moved out of my house. And then that didn't work out well, of course. And I went and lived with my granny. God bless her, she's passed too. And the next morning, I felt so bad, man. I couldn't get out of bed. It felt like my legs were just disappeared. They felt I could not stand on them. They hurt. So I called my buddy up, and I says, listen, Jeff Jeff Okonski was his name. And I says, can you come get me? I think I got to go to the emergency room. He goes, what's wrong? I says, I can't feel my legs. So he comes, picks me up, and we get in his freaking car, and we go to the hospital. And by the time we're in the hospital, my legs are coming back, but my tongue had swollen up 10 times the size. Probably not that much, but that's what it felt like. So I go in, and I cover in because I didn't want people to see me. And I go in there, and the nurse says, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? I say, I ate 15 Stelazine. She goes, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? I say, I ate 15 Stelazine. I'm trying to tell her what I did, but I couldn't talk because my tongue was so big. So I moved my hand. As soon as I moved my hand, she goes, ah! And she put me in a wheelchair. She goes, what happened? And I told her, I was a little bit clear. She goes, what were you trying to do? Kill yourself? I said, no, I'm trying to get high. I wasn't trying to kill myself. I was just trying to catch a buzz. And they gave me a couple shots. I guess what I was doing. I ended up, the tongue was big. My head started twisting like The Exorcist. I couldn't pull it back. I was having these muscle spasms from it. And I got back, and my buddy Jeff was waiting for me. He had a big fat joint of some good Mexican dirt weed from back then, and a 40 ounce of Colt 45. and he says, man, what happened? He says, I don't know, but I don't ever want to do those things again. Here, pass that beer over here. I could never equate that one thing was as bad as the next. It might not have affected me as bad right away, but all of it eventually took me to places I didn't want to go, man.
You told that story, and it brought back these memories that I had completely forgotten. Being 17, 18, being in my friend's house, going in their parents' medicine cabinet, and anything that said may cause drowsiness, I stole. And then my aunt, she had a nurse's or the pill dictionary,
Oh,
and I
yeah,
would
yeah.
look them up.
PDR. My mom had one because my mom was a pill head. Never got in trouble.
But some of
PDR.
them would say like side effects were like bizarre muscle movements
Yeah.
and weird positions.
Yeah.
And it always freaked me out that I don't want to be in weird positions. What does that even mean? It kept me away from some pills. But it was one of those things that I am not alone.
See,
when you told that story.
my mom had a PDR. I probably should have read it before I did the pills, but that was an after the fact. I would read it after. Oh shit, I shouldn't have done that.
And we learned things the hard way.
Yeah, that was just one of many stupid decisions I made based on my using. And things got worse. They didn't get better. I left home when I was pretty early age. I had a girlfriend, of course, many girlfriends, but this one she partied just like I did, and so me and her were down with each other. She got pregnant at 16, and I think I was 17, maybe 18. I was a year or two older than her. She got pregnant, and of course, my thing was, let's not have the child. Her parents were those secret Catholic secret service people, the Catholic community, and they said, well, you're gonna have the kid, and we're gonna adopt it to a family. I didn't really want to do it that way, but that gave me an out. And I hate to say this, but I would be lying to you otherwise if I told you that I subdued to them because I cared so much about this child that wasn't born. I would be a total lie. I only gave that child up for adoption because I didn't want the responsibility for it. I mean, hindsight 2020, I can look back now and say, oh, you did the right thing, but that wasn't my intention. My intention was to be irresponsible, continue to get rid of the kid, get her back in the bed with me, and continue to use and have fun, because that's what it was all about, right? Hell with working. I mean, I could tell you some times where I took her, even at a young age, before it even really got bad, by living in places with kerosene heaters in the wintertime up north, not taking care of a woman like you should, or any type of family member or friend, let alone somebody that you said you cared about. I remember the child was born like December 30th or 31st, right before the New Year's, and she had the baby, and I stumbled in, stoned as hell, like I would be any other day of the week, because my using at 13 and 14 was, every weekend or so. Then when I got 15, 16, 17, Sunday meant Monday, Monday meant Tuesday, Tuesday went third, and it just was a vicious cycle. Every day was spent to see how I could get the next one. I lived to use and used to live, as they say. That was to get something in my system to not make me feel how I felt about myself or the past or whatever the case may be, is what my goal was. And I remember going in, and I would deny that, because she was a partier like me, that it wasn't my child, that I had no part of it. You'll see. And then I remember going in, and as soon as I seen that child and I seen her big head, like my big head, I said, this has got to be my kid. I did hold the child. It was a little girl, and let her go and signed off. And then she got out of the hospital. We went back to doing our thing, and that only lasted for a few more years. Gosh, I guess it did last a few more years, because I think I was about 22 when that relationship finally left, and when she left, of course I was heartbroken. Things got even worse. I was at this point living at some guy's house. I can't remember his name. I remember his face. And, I thought I was living large, or a couple of crackheads. At this point, I had to start smoking crack. And we're living in this house that he owned, had no electric, no water. It's the middle of winter, and we're smoking crack off a candle. And I think everything's okay, and I started to do things I never thought I would do, to get what I needed to get. And, of course, that little stuff I grew up, with possessions and DWIs, I used to call them back then. I mean, I had 3 DWIs in total, 9 cars before I ever got my license at 19. But they didn't do anything back then. It was like a DWI was like, oh, slap you on the wrist, let you sleep for a couple hours, and then kick you back out and let you go do it again. And that's what I did it again. I ended up getting caught, arrested really arrested for the first time where I was going to do some time. And this was back in, I don't know, 86, I think it was. I was probably 25, 26 years old.
What state was this in?
This was in Toledo.
Okay, so you're still in
Well,
Ohio.
I'm back now. I'm back and forth. I lived in Erie, Michigan, Monroe, Michigan, Detroit, Michigan. I had family up in Detroit, so back and forth. But it didn't matter. Whatever state I went, I took the problem with me. It was me. And that even progressed when I ended up coming down to Florida. And I'm in Toledo, and I'm in the county jail, and I remember going in front of the judge. At this point, I have no friends. Well, I do. They're sitting in the crack house, but those are the ones that won't accept my calls. They don't have a phone. We didn't have cell phones back then. They haven't brought me a pair of underwear in my package or some hustler books or put $1 in my commissary, but they were my partners. They were waiting for me to get out. Of course, that's where my mind was. I was so beat up that I couldn't do 10 push-ups in jail, and I was in my 20s. Went in front of the judge, and I told him, he said, well, I'm going to give you, I've been in there like 30, he said, I'm going to give you 20 more days, 50 days. I said, but Your Honor. I says, I can I speak? He says, yeah, go ahead. I says, I have some things I need to take care of out there. After I just told this guy I had nothing, he says, really? I says, yeah, I need to go out and take care of some business and get my things in order. Do you think I can get out like tomorrow? And he says, and I'm back battling with this judge, and he says, you know what, better off, I have something else for you. He says, we're going to give you, on top of the 26 more days, you're going to do 76 days. I said, are you kidding me? He says, and if you want some help, he said, you have 2 years drug offender probation. When you get out, go next door to the probation officers, and they'll get you some help. Salvation Army. So I looked at this guy like he had 3 heads. I said, me, Salvation Army? This is the guy that couldn't get something to eat, and I'm living in a house with no electricity. And he gave me an option to get help, and I'm like, fuck you. I'm thinking to myself, fuck this guy. He don't know who I am. He knew exactly who I was. So when it came, so I had 2 options when I got out after all this time passed, and I couldn't stop obsessing with wanting to get out and use. I had next door to the probation department and get some help, or 10 miles to the crack house. That was an easy decision. 10 miles to the crack house. I'm in the crack house, of course. They got all the curtains pinned up against the wall, and I'm watching this black and white TV because I knew it wasn't my crack house, or else it wouldn't have had a TV in it. And watching this little black and white, I got smoke rolling out of every orifice of my body, and watching this TV, and I just know that already, I haven't been there a couple hours, but the cops were coming to get me. I knew it. I knew they were coming because I was violated already. And then all of a sudden, for some of you older people, you'll know that this commercial that they had back on the 80s came in, and it said, they showed 2 eggs fried, and they said, this is your brain on drugs. And my eyes lit up like this, and I thought to myself, fuck, I'm going to be a fried egg. And I'm like, shit. And then all of a sudden, that little cartoon light bulb went out in my head. And when it went off, I thought, I have the answer to my problems. I know exactly what's going on. It's these people up here. It's the place I'm living in. It's the police. It was everybody's fault but my own. So I says, you know what? I got to get the fuck out of here. So I did the best thing that I thought I could do. I stole a car and came to Florida. I thought that was the answer to all my problems.
Did you know anybody down here? Or?
I had a friend that I grew up with that lived in Tampa, and I had been talking to him, and I was, trying to make that great escape. I kidnapped this girl. Not really. I didn't kidnap her.
Anyone who uses knows what you mean.
Yeah. My hostage was this little blonde that I found that I had been messing with, and she came in the stolen car with me. I could tell you about the first time I tried to get out, and it didn't work, and I ended up back. But then the second time I finally got out, and I ended up in Tampa. My buddy only put up with me for a week or 2. And he said, you got to go, man. He had a wife and some family, and I'm just off the chain. I'm not trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to do everything wrong. So I ended up, imagine this, never been to Tampa in my life, never been to Florida in my life. My name's Blake Fulton Beach. My daddy's name was Benjamin Franklin Beach. I got an aunt named Sandy Beach and an uncle named Sunny Beach. And today I have a little girl. She's 14. She's my heart. Her name is Malibu Beach. But I had never been to a beach in my life. So I ended up in Florida where the beaches are, but I ended up in Tampa where there's none there. I ended up getting kicked out. The car I had stolen broke down, of course, so I stole another one. And I ended up I stole another one. I'm not even going to tell that story. But I didn't have the car no more because I got a bunch of peanuts. That's the story on that one. But I ended up in this crack house. Imagine that, in Tampa. How did I find the crack house? It doesn't matter if it's a crack house, dope house, whatever. A bar stool. Everybody's telling lies. I did this. You did this. We did this. You're going to do this. Whatever. It's all lies. I'm not leaving the bar stool. I'm just going to sit here and tell lies. And we're sitting in this crack house. I'm talking to this big biker-looking dude. Tattoos. Oh, that's before I had any tats. And he big dude, man. I'm from Michigan. And I said, oh, yeah, I'm from Michigan, too. You know, we got along. We're smoking. He says, what are you going to do? I says, I think I'm going to go to Houston. He looked at me like, what are you going to Houston for? I says, well, I heard there's a lot of work in Houston. And I really, at that point, I didn't want to admit that my life had been taken over, even over all these years of using, that it was controlling me. I just thought if I could get a break, if I could get a good job, if I could get my license back, if those people up north wouldn't bother me anymore with that probation violation I had, if I could just get farther away, that they would just forget about me and I could live my life the way I wanted to live it. He said, Houston, he says, what about Daytona? I said, Daytona? What's in Daytona? I've heard of Daytona 500. He said, listen, man, it's bike week in Daytona right now. If we get over to Daytona, I got some buddies over there and we got a place to live. That was an easy answer there. So, of course, I stole another car and we ended up going to Daytona. I won't get into all that happened because a lot happened in Daytona. And we don't have that kind of time. But I will tell you, I got to Daytona on a Friday night in the middle of bike week where it was wide open. And this was in like 1987. I mean, just everybody using, doing whatever they want on the streets, on the beach, all over the place. And I thought I found heaven. What I found is I was in the height of my addiction. I ended up catching my first 3 prison bits in Volusia County, Daytona Beach. So at that point, it was just a vicious cycle, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. A lot of craziness in between. I ended up spending from 87 to 2000, the next 11 years in prison. 6 times. I have a D119354 is my DOC number. The D stands for dumbass, because to go 6 times, you got to be a dumbass. One time was a violation. That's why I didn't get a letter for those who are counting, because I had a violation one time. But it was just horrible, man. And, I knew nothing about recovery except for that commercial that I had seen. And, it wasn't as prevalent back then as it is now. I mean, it's on every corner now. I'd go to meetings inside just because you'd get gain time. Or you try to get that get out of jail free card. And I did get it one time, but of course I was dumb enough to put myself right back in. They say the same thing after every meeting, that you'd be sitting there in your orange jumpsuit or your blue jumpsuit, whatever color you had at the time. They would look at you, they'd either be from AA, and I thought for sure, well, they're definitely smoking weed. They might not be drinking, but they're smoking. And then NA, they say they ain't using drugs, but they're definitely drinking. I know they got to be drinking. And then CA, Cocaine Anonymous, they just ain't got to do cocaine. They can do anything else. And I'm thinking, so you know what? I couldn't understand why you would even think, why would you want to go through life without using something? I mean, that's the purpose of using, is to get high and enjoy and to feel that way. Not definitely understand, but they used to say this one thing after they would bring a meeting into whatever facility you were in, or whatever facility I was in at the time, because there was multiple, and they would look at you in the eye as they're getting ready to go out through the doors and you're stuck in there, and they would say, when you get out, call somebody. Go to a meeting. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm going to do a 6-year bid and I'm going to go to an AA meeting? It's time to celebrate. How sick is that? That's really the way I thought. And that kept me in and out. That vicious cycle kept happening to me, that rotation. Revolving door, as they call it. And that I was stuck in that revolving door. On May 9th of 2000, told that morning, I was up in, I don't even remember what institution I was, but I was getting out of Mariana. I was going to get on the bus in Mariana, which is up in the Panhandle. And they told me at 2 o'clock this afternoon, you'll be an emergency release. I'm not going to go into it. Yes, I was illegally incarcerated. Yes, if they would have caught me for half the stuff I'd have done, I'd have never got out. So yes, I should be grateful that I'm getting out finally. And my EOS date of that time would have been 2011. This was in 2000. And they emergency release said, you're leaving. We're taking you on a bus, and your bus is going to be leaving at 8 o'clock tonight. I think it was 8 o'clock. And they said, where do you want to go? Any other time I got out, they give you $100, a pair of dollar store jeans, some Bobos, and I'm ready to go. I got $100. Shit, that's all I needed. And I got down there, and I felt it. I felt something different. The guy said, well, where do you want to go? And I'm like, fuck, I thought to myself, I really don't know where I want to go. I don't want to end up back here again. I was so tired of, being told what to do, when to do it, wearing a pair of blue pants with a blue shirt and a white stripe, what to eat, what to watch on TV, watching guys kill each other and fuck each other all the time, to be vivid about it. It's true. I was like, at first it was like, cool, you're a hard ass, you've been to prison, but then it got old real quick. And I did not want to, I thought, my life was way more important than living like a caged animal. I told him I'm going to go back to Fort Lauderdale. I spent 10 days on the street in Fort Lauderdale, and then a year in the Broward County Jail in 1993 for a first, second, and third degree felony. The first offer was life as an habitual offender. I would not be talking to you now. And I'm blessed to get through that, and I'm blessed to be where I'm at, and to be coming up on 30 years, and to thinking where I should be, and that God's grace and the program recovery and the 12 steps of whatever you want to put in there has allowed me to live a life beyond my wildest dreams, with sponsorship and sponsees and meetings and service work. I'm a service junkie. Just all the things that I've been able to do sober is beyond anything I could ever imagine. I couldn't get out the front door when I was using. Today I've been all over the place, all over the world, man. So I tell them I'm going to go down to Broward, Fort Lauderdale, and I'm going to do something I've never done. I'm going to do exactly what those people told me to do. I'm going to get out, call somebody, go to a meeting. I'm going to try to get into one of these halfway houses they talked about. I'm going to see if that will work for me. The fear, I didn't want to tell anybody, but the fear for me was that they wouldn't accept me, that I had been such a bad guy, that I was such a piece of shit, because that's how I felt about myself, that they wouldn't take me anyways. So I was like caught between this rock and hard place. Do I use? Do I do not use? I didn't want to use. And I got on that bus that night up in Mariana, and at the first stop, everybody gets off and gets something to drink. I didn't do it. I stayed on the bus. Got to Tallahassee, everybody runs down to Frenchtown between buses and gets some dope, whatever their flavor was, and I didn't do it. And I'm white knuckling the whole way. I'm looking fresh, just got out of prison, a little pumped up. And I get all the way down, riding all the way to Lauderdale. I get to Fort Pierce. And when I get to Fort Pierce, which is still, an hour and a half from Fort Lauderdale, it was morning time already. And I get there, and there's this girl I know in Fort Pierce. And she's crackheaded, drunk just like me. And I'm thinking, 2 years I've been locked up this time. I go see the girl real quick. I'm not going to use. I'm just going to go see the crackhead. And I really, really believe that. And I went to the bus driver. I said, show him my ticket. I says, if I come back tomorrow, can I get back? He said, yeah, just bring your ticket. That was my intention. I will tell you, I got to that girl's house. I didn't even get to work nothing. Within an hour, I was stuck on stupid. Within days, I was back in that same vicious cycle. I never made it to Fort Lauderdale.
But this time, you didn't end up getting locked up again.
Not yet.
This is when...
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Never made it to Fort Lauderdale. I'm still at the girl's house. I'm ripping and running with her. So it's June 30th of 2000. I had just been on a 3-day run. We're living at her mom's house, which was luxury for a couple crackheads. And, it's June 30th. It's a Friday. It's the first of the month. She does her thing. I do my thing. We meet in the middle. That's how it always worked. I woke up that morning. Well, I didn't even wake up. I'd been on a 3-day run on 12 and Orange, and I really didn't even wake up. And I felt this. It was 10 o'clock in the morning, and I felt this. I call it a God conscious, and I know it was God conscious. I had this voice, that voice that I always have been there, like, don't stick your hand in the fire, dumbass. You're going to get burnt. And then I would do it anyways, and like, how in the fuck did I get burnt? That type of thing, that God conscious that's telling me what the right thing to do. And then, of course, I got that big silverback gorilla loud and obnoxious on the other side saying, "Go ahead, I got you this time, I got you this time." And I'm like, no, 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 yeah. So it was always a constant battle. And had this God consciousness that said, if you don't seek help, you'll never know life again. And I remember it like it was yesterday. That was almost 26 years ago. Just started looking through, back then they still had phone books, and regular phones. So I started looking through the phone book for this place because I had heard from this girl. So I'm sitting in a motel back in 1998 before this last bit. We're in a hotel room smoking crack, of course, and my intentions are not just to be sociable with her. I'm trying to, get with her. And she's blah, blah. Again, we're in the crack house. She's blah, 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 blah. And she goes, I was in this place called His Place in Stewart, and I had never been a Stewart in my life. And she goes, I had 18 months in recovery, and it was the greatest time of my life. And I looked at her and I says, obviously that shit didn't work for you, bitch. Shut the fuck up and give me the pipe. And, she just looked at me. But you know what? God works in mysterious ways. Because 2 years later, that morning on June 30th, I'm thinking to myself, there's got to be a better way. And I remembered her telling me this place called His Place. I found it in the phone book, calling, and the girl I was with, she said, what are you doing? I said, I'm done. She goes, what do you mean you're done? It's the first of the month. I said, I'm done. I want some help. I said, why don't you come along with me? She goes, oh, no. You go right ahead. I'm going to stay here. This black woman, Miss Geneva, she's dead, God bless her. She said, if you can get your ass down here by 8 o'clock tonight, we have a bed for you. Where the bed was, where it was at, how do I get to Stewart? I had no clue. All I knew is I had a willingness that came over me to do whatever it took. And I got there. June 30th of 2000, I got there. I walked in. The black lady wasn't there, but there was this old fat guy named Larry. God bless him. He's dead now, too. Died from an overdose. He was the house guy there. And he was sitting behind the desk. And he looked at me and mumbled. He said, let me show you around, tell you the rules. That's how he talked. He said, you might not want to stay here. And I looked at his fat ass, and I was like, you're fucking right, dude. I probably don't want to stay here. And instead I had that moment of willingness, and I looked at him, and I looked at the paper he wanted me to sign, and I looked around me, and I says, you know what? Anything's got to be better than where I came from. He said, well, you got to be in a room with a couple, and I'm thinking about telling him, kiss my ass, and I'm thinking, man, you just spent years with 70 other roommates. A willingness came over me to give in. And that's what I did. And through the grace of God and the program recovery and the people in it and the steps and everything about service work, I can't tell you how much I press service work. It's just kept me responsible. I haven't seen it necessary to pick up any mood or mind-altering substance. I've had 3 back surgeries. I've had a soldier surgery. I've had knee problems. I've been through a divorce. Well, actually 2 divorces. I'm not going to get into it, but my second divorce is my current ex-wife that's living with me now. We won't get into that, how that's working out. But but to all that, and I haven't seen it, not that I haven't thought about it. I'd be lying to you if I didn't say the thought hasn't crossed my mind. But I don't feed the sickness no more. I'm not going to entertain that madness. I don't want to go back there again. I don't have they talk about I might have another relapse, but I might not have another recovery. I feel that way. I know what my MO is, man. I got 384 points in the state of Florida. That never goes away. I just had to go through a year process to get an exemption. I had to go back and get every felony disposition, arrest record, fines paid from 79 to my sales charge at Cobo Hall in Detroit, Michigan when I was 17, all the way to the 98 when I had some misdemeanors in Indian River and St. Lucie County. That's behind me now too. So, I've come a long way when it comes to recovery. I haven't used no matter what. I've made a lot of bad decisions in recovery, especially with finances and business. I was in the mortgage business when it was real big back in the mid 2000s, like 2008, and it crashed. And I own my own mortgage office. I'm a 17, actually more than that. I come to find out. Multiple times, I got enough felony convictions to be president twice. Let's put it that way. So I mortgage business crashed. I'm losing everything that I had built up. quickly, and I'm on the treadmill at the gym, and I'm watching the news, and I got to keep updated because it's very important now, right? This is a very important part of my life. And then they started to talk about the crash of '88, and I'm thinking to myself, fuck, I didn't even know we had a crash in '88. And at that point, I had this thought like, the fear of people and economic insecurities will leave us. It left me right then and there. Because it's not about that I'm going to get rich and get a lot of money. It's about that I'm not going to feel the same way that I used to feel about it, like I have to have it. You know, life got tough. I ended up going through a divorce. I almost used during that process, close to it. Not like I wanted to go pick up, but that little gorilla that used to be a big gorilla, which never left, was there, and he was whispering on me in my ear, saying, "It's going to be okay now. You can do this. It's just to make you sleep better." And I didn't. And things have gotten better, and things get worse, and things get better, and been up and down through my life. Things that I've been able to do in my life in recovery is beyond anything. Like I said, I've been able to travel to conventions all over. Been a big part of Cocaine Anonymous. Like I said, I'm a member of the A team. It doesn't matter which fellowship. If going to the top of the mountain and shaving your head and putting a robe on and hitting a tambourine keeps you from feeling the way you felt when you went out at 3 o'clock in the morning, God bless you, man. Do it. My thing was just Cocaine Anonymous. I loved Who's an Addict, one of the readings. I just loved the camaraderie of the fellowship. I was able to start traveling with my sponsor, then without my sponsor, all over the country and all over the world to different conventions. I was able to get a passport, which I couldn't believe I could get a passport. And then when I got a passport and I went over to Europe, I was thinking, oh shit, they gave me a passport, so they won't let me back in. That's what I thought. But I was able to come back in. Just the gifts that I've been given are incredible. I've been able to work with others. Something I do on a daily basis. Keeps it green for me, keeps me grounded. I was able to make amends to a lot of financial amends I had to make. I couldn't make them to institutions I stole from. So there was other ways that my sponsor, when he took me through the steps, that said, hey, you can donate to this or do service work here or do more volunteer work here. That will make up for that, internally, because this is about getting my side of the street clean, not putting my ass in jail, but to clean my side of the street, And there was a lot of things that I couldn't do because they were just too old or I didn't know, like my daughter that I gave up for adoption. I couldn't tell her I was sorry. I couldn't make amends to her. I gave her all rights to. So I thought God would allow me to make that up in a different way. And he did. That's when I had Malibu at about 11 years sober. I got divorced, like I said, during the mortgage. That was a real tough, quick story about her. So I met this woman that I was married to first. I'd never been married until I was in recovery. First girl I ended up marrying was, I met her playing softball. She wasn't a drug addict or an alcoholic. I was 3 months hot in a halfway house. I thought I was all that and 2 bags of chips. I met her playing softball, and I'm thinking she likes me. She's got a car, she's got an apartment, she's got a job. I'm thinking, ooh, I love this girl. What woman would want a guy in my shape or condition or position in life? I found out one that was sicker than I was. She was manic depressant bipolar, and I learned a lot. She had 2 girls, so I was able to help them. I was able to learn how to be a better person, a better father. We ended up splitting up. It wasn't the greatest thing. It was to the point where I was going to commit homicide or suicide. We had to split. And God bless her, she's passed too. God, I keep talking about all these people who have passed. I wonder if I had something to do with that. But
no, it's pretty depressing. That's one of the things we live long enough to watch other people die. How the hell have we survived? Yeah. All my friends from back home from New Jersey are dead. My sister will let me know, like, oh, did you remember him? Like, oh yeah, I was friends with him. He's dead too. And it's like I have this survivor's guilt. I was the only one of my crew that got arrested constantly. I was the only one that did hard drugs first. Yeah. How am I still here? Yeah. And none of them are.
I just seen a buddy of mine. I was just did a road trip, went all the way through Columbus, Ohio, Toledo, up to Upper Michigan, then back through Detroit. I stopped and seen my buddy in Toledo that I turned him on or turned him out. And we used to do a lot of damage together. He ended up getting caught and I didn't. And he's the kind of guy that never rolled over on me. And he ended up doing 15 years. And I just seen him, and like one of my best friends. And it's crazy how shit like that happens. But we look around at all these other people, and he'll tell me about guys and girls that are no longer alive, and all these people, even in recovery, all these people that you see and you're friends with, and you want them to get what you got. And I don't mean like that some special talent. I'm just saying the gift of desperation, that gift of doing what it takes to just subdue my disease, to learn to live a different way of life. I don't do that shit no more. My perception of life is completely different. I mean, I mentioned shit eaters. I totally respect the law today. I totally respect them. If it wasn't for them, our mothers and sisters and wives and things of that, it'd be a free-for-all. It may not be perfect, but it's surely the best place to be living. So I have to respect those, and I respect people of authority today. When I disrespected them, they kept putting me in cages someplace, because that's what happens. Where was I at? I was talking about
The first wife.
Oh yeah, the first wife.
Wife.
Yeah, she's not here. She died of a heart attack later on, but we divorced. And I'm not going to tell you how that happened too, because God definitely did for me what I could. I tried to hold on to that thing for
I remember how it ended.
long time. And I went over to my house. That was my house, my castle. But I had moved out to another house I had at the time, and went there, and sure as shit, I went to my bedroom, and there she was with another dude. I'm like, holy sheep dip. But God did for me. Hey, I could have shot them both, killed them both, and instead I beelined and turned around. And things got real tough. I did what they told me to do. I immersed myself back into a lot of meetings. I was hanging out with my grand sponsor, my great-grand sponsor, people in recovery, and they really carried me through that time in life when it was really tough. And, and things got better eventually. And then, of course, I'm out hitting the scene again and hanging out. And I'll tell the story because it's funny, and you guys might laugh. So I'm out there, on the dating scene. I'm hanging out with my sponsor who always preaches recovery by injection. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm not doing that. He says, yeah, recovery by injection. This guy's got 34 years now, or 32 years coming up. So we're out, and I'm talking to this buddy of mine who's dying from leukemia, and he's in recovery about the same time. Tommy DeVore. He was an NA guy, but we were real close. We came in about the same time. When you come in about the same time, you connect with a lot of people that come in at the same time, because not too many of them stay sober, man. A small handful of people that come in. I mean, there was hundreds that I met, and only halfway house. I went through that halfway house, his place, the very first place in Martin County, in any area around here that had a halfway house. And out of me and all those people that I knew that came through, there's nobody else that's been sober. Is still sober to this day. Why me? Why did God give me that gift? I try not to question it, because he does. I have to do a lot of things that I question why I should be doing. And then he says, dumbass, that's why you're still sober. And I have to shut up and just do what he asked me to do. So I'm playing the, I'm out chasing girls again. I'm about 40 at this time, almost 50. Shit, I'm almost 50. And so I'm playing, and I'm talking to Tommy, and he's dying. He's got leukemia. They thought he had ammonia, and they called him Sticks because he was a drummer, played in all the little local bands, but he was a good dude, man. And I'm talking to him, and he's already up in Boston at this specialty place for leukemia, and he's going to die. So we're talking every night. I'm always saying, hey, how are you doing? First thing he says, no, how are you doing? I said, Tommy, let's talk about you. He said, no, let's talk about you. He said, I heard you're going through some stuff, and that's like my 8-year recovery. I was really going through it with the divorce, loss of business, just things were really tough. He says, you do a lot for people in recovery, man. He says, it's okay to pray for something that you want. I says, man, I wasn't taught that way. I was taught to pray for others. He said, listen, man, just pray for something. If you need something, pray for it. Just make sure you cover all the bases. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Maybe he's right. So that night, this is not a joke. That night, I get on my knees. I said, God, I don't mean to be selfish, but all I want is blonde hair blue eyes and big tits. I said, I'm tired of chasing. That's all I want. That's all I want in life. I want blonde hair, blue eyes. Swear to God, 2 weeks later, I meet my future wife. That's now my ex-wife. I forgot to ask for brains. Yeah, I love her to death. I do. We're together now still. She's my baby's mama. That's when I was able to, of course we met. We started dating. Next thing you know, poof, I got a baby. And that's where Malibu was born. I always wanted a girl named Malibu. And then I really thought that this was the opportunity that God gave me a chance to make up for that little girl I gave up for adoption. And it has been. I've been able to care for her. Not anything like was cared for me. I've been able to break that chain. I've been able to learn to be a man, to be a husband, a father, a grandfather. I'll go into that. So I thought that was that opportunity. I knew that was that opportunity. And she's a mama's girl. She still is. And we used to live over in this house, and I used to be able to have her out in the garage and wait for her mom to come home from work, and she'd be seeing the car come around the corner. She's not even 2 years old, but she knew the car. Here comes mama. Mama. I had her in a headlock, trying to hold her. Here's mama. My phone's ringing like it always does. I'm on there, and this woman's on the phone. It's like she's asking me all these questions, and Tara's coming around the corner, and I'm looking at Malibu, and so all of a sudden Tara pulls in the driveway. Malibu breaks away. I'm about to hang up the phone, and as soon as I'm about to hang up the phone, the woman on the other line proceeds to tell me she's my daughter I gave up for adoption 30 some years ago. And it still crushes me to think about it. And I was so rude to this little girl who wasn't a little girl, that just wanted to find out who her real father was. I said, well, how do you know who's your mom? Asking these questions when she's just trying to be kind to me, actually. And I wanted to hang the inside. I felt like the lowest. I had like 11, 12 years in recovery. And I'm like, I just wanted to hang up the phone. I didn't want to face that feeling, man, that hurt. What I did to this little girl, who was a grown woman. And I said to her, I thought about it, and then I thought, what recovery had taught me. And I says, I'm sorry. And when I said I was sorry, she proceeded to say, thank you for allowing me to have good parents. And when she said that, this like ton of bricks that was on my shoulders all these years, not that I don't have more on there now, but they were lifted. The relief I got from doing that, making that amends to her, because they come when God sees fit, that you're able to accept them, was beyond anything I even knew I had. And we talked for 45 minutes, and over the years we've talked. I just seen her a few weeks ago. I was in Columbus. She lives in Columbus, Ohio. I have a 25-year-old granddaughter. I got a picture of all of them having ice cream, which is really cool. She works for Ohio State, the Ohio State University. You know that one? The Ohio State University. My little girl's going to be a Buckeye. One of the things out of many, my mom and I hadn't talked for 24 years. She was still getting high. I started visiting her, and she would offer me. I said, Mom, I don't do that anymore. She goes, oh, you can have one. I said, no, I can't have one. And she would do it in front of my little girl. She got dementia, and it's funny because out of all those years that we hadn't talked, she goes, well, if you've been in recovery for so long, why haven't you tried to find me earlier? I said, I wasn't even sure I ever wanted to find you. I was honest with her. But my little girl needed to know who her grandma was, and I needed to make amends also. And I cleaned my side of the street. My mom told me something that she never told me before. She told me she loved me. She never told me that growing up. There was never that type. I've never grieved for my mom passing. I don't know if I ever will. I mean, I feel for her. I feel for her husband, who I thought he was a pretty cool dude, this last one. And other than that, it's just all the stuff that God giveth and God taketh. That's just stuff. But all the internal blessings that I've been given only because of my perception of life and recovery is beyond anything I could ever imagine. My life has been one blessing after one blessing. Like I said, I just went through a divorce. My wife divorced me. We were going through some tough times. The COVID kicked my ass financially. The wife hauled the ass on me, and I got my little girl, and it's me and her. I was really getting to be okay with that, but then the wife came running back. So, that's a work in in progress too. Relationships are tough, man. Sometimes I think it might be better to be gay, but I'm not going to go there.
Double the outfits too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and save on water. Shower at the same time. My life has been great. I just, I'm amazed that, tomorrow will be 26 years. I'm like, 26, I couldn't imagine 26 fucking minutes. If I wasn't passed out or locked up, 26 minutes wasn't an option. I was working for whatever dope man was out there. I was working for whatever he had. I was working for it. Not caring about anybody or anything, man. It's just recovery's a blessing. Working the steps. I continue to work the steps. I still go to step studies. I still do big book studies. I still work with sponsees. I still work with my sponsor. I just spoke the other day at a meeting. Maybe I don't go to a meeting every day of the week, but I'm still hitting 2-3 meetings a week. Every day I'm around people in recovery. My life is centered around people in recovery, about helping others and being helped by others. Because believe it or not, those that you think you may be helping, they're usually helping me more than I'm helping them. It gives me an opportunity to live a decent life, man. So much better than it was when I was wearing them pair of blue pants with a blue shirt and a white stripe.
I can't think of anything else to add. We could talk for days about all the stuff we've seen.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe another time, because we have met a cast of characters. But I meant to ask you the other day, have you ever heard anything about Tommy?
Which Tommy?
Horseface Tommy.
Oh, no. Tommy came. I owed him a couple $, that he had in savings, and he had his sister drive him up in a van from Vero, and he was drunker than Cooter Brown, and he stunk worse than a horse. And he said, "Let me in the car. I said, "You ain't coming in my car, bro." He said, "Come on, man. Let me sit with your messes." Tommy, you don't get in my car. He was bad. And ever since he got that money, I haven't heard anything from him.
How long ago was that?
That was when he left, right after he left.
So a while ago.
It's been a while. Yeah, I haven't heard anything from him.
Someone told me he was panhandling in Vero.
Could be.
And it could be. All I know is he's not in Indian River County.
Yeah.
Because that's where,
in the jail.
Yeah, because
you check all that stuff all the time. Yep. I used to get multiple pictures from you.
Yes, that's right.
It kept me up. You should continue to do that if there's any other.
Well, there's not many people left.
Yeah, I know
that
true.
we know.
That's true.
I mean, if one of the inner circle got arrested, you'd be the first to know. But there's not many of us left. I can't stress enough whenever I speak and talk about how important Blake's house was for me, because it's where I did not want to go. It was run worse than prison, I thought. Give me the work camp again, I'll be fine. Just not this place. It was exactly where I needed to be. That's why I hated it. That's why I stayed so long. And I was lucky to be there through COVID when we all had to work together, because I think that was a huge part, because my whole life was about
killed me financially. These guys killed me.
But there's multiple people still around
Yeah.
from that time period,
Yeah.
even the ones we don't like Glenn.
Yeah.
But what advice would you give to anybody who is new to this? A lot of people watch these videos, and detoxes my friends work out. What would you say to someone who's sitting there, uncomfortable in their skin, wants to celebrate when they get out? What would you tell them to do?
I'm going to tell you what you heard me say, that they told me so many times, and I just didn't hear it. When you get out, call somebody, go to a meeting, get involved. Everybody is there to help. Believe it or not, there's going to be your pieces of shit no matter where you go. But for the most part, people are really there to help. They're not going to give you a Maserati, a CEO job, or blonde hair, blue eyes, and big tits. You got to work for that. But they are there to help you get to meetings, help you get into a sober living if that's what you're looking for. Just something to change that. Listen, if you keep doing the same old shit, you're going to keep getting the same results. Nothing changes if nothing changes. You can't make this shit up. This shit happens every day in our lives. The chaos, the drama, all that shit still happens. I just don't have to use over it. Life is life. Try running an office with 10 women in it. Nothing but drama in that baby. I've done that before. But I have a blessing to be able to do that today. I mean, there's no magic to it. I had to become willing to do it somebody else's way than Blake's. I do the best I can to continue to try to do that.
Hey, one final thing. What's the saying?
My saying is, if you put this much in your mouth or that much in your mouth, you're still a cocksucker.
That's it.
Thank you for watching The Recovery Idiot. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and visit therecoveryidiot.com. Why feed hungry kids in Africa when you can buy a shirt? Please follow us on all the social medias. And remember, no matter how much you put in your mouth, you'll always be a cocksucker.